Alright guys, so we just got back from playing Smite 2, Alpha Weekend 2, okay, the second Alpha Weekend. What do I think? Because recently, by the way, I've picked up, and I have to say this first before everything else. Smite, the first game, Smite 1, is a weird, guilty pleasure of mine. I made a video on it. For one, the fact that we're just never gonna get attractive female characters ever again in Smite. I mean, some of the recent female goddesses that they've released are kind of attractive, but you look at a character like Nuwa, you look at a character like Aphrodite, you look at a character like Neith, Dodgy, Serket, Kali, you look at all these women, the list can go on. The first female characters they made for this game were absolute bombshells. These are sexy women. This is something that they will no longer provide to you with Smite. When it comes down to a game like Smite, the sexy women are no more, no longer, okay? I think Soul was the last sexy character that they ever added. Then recently in Smite 1, they added a freaking fat chick. What the F are you doing, Hi-Rez? Nobody wants to see that, but you know, they keep on adding all these females who are either completely covered up, they're not hot or attractive, they're not sexy, they don't have that same, I mean, you look at the first female characters made for Smite, and you can tell men were working on this game. You can tell that men were like, when I play my own game I'm developing for, I want to stare at an amazing Anus, an amazing rear end, and I want to stare at an amazing pair of freaking breasts. Okay, so we had a bunch of female characters who definitely got me through a lot of difficult nights wrestling with the game. But you know, these women were sexy, they were freaking hot, and so many guys fell in love with Smite, partially because the chicks are freaking hot in this game. Same thing with League of Legends. Tons of women in that game were sexy. Bunch of characters that they came out with, that, for instance, freaking Misfortune, freaking hot. And that one, that weird furry Asian chick, I think with the purple hair. Anyway, she has like a teleport ability or something, blah blah blah. She's a mage. Anyways, you got a bunch of sexy women though in these games. And a bunch of dudes are, of course, that's the gamer population. Anyways, they love these female characters because they're freaking hot. And what they start doing is, for one, they make, and this is a huge issue, right? For Smite 2, they make freaking Bellona, just like Smite 1, they make Bellona the face of the game. What the frick are you doing, Hi-Rez? Nobody wants to see her. Why are you not putting Neith? Neith is super freaking smoking hot. Every guy wants to look at her boobs. And you're sitting there and you're like, let's not make her the face of the game. Let's totally make Bellona. Let's not make Aphrodite, Nuwa, Dodgy. Let's not make these sexy women with huge boobs. They're sexy women. Let's not put them at the front of the game. Let's put a freaking woman boy or boy woman, man woman, whatever, Bellona. They find a freaking female that looks like some kind of prepubescent boy that's raging all the time, and let's put her as the face of the game. This freaking gender studies feminist professor, student, she's not a professor. We all know she's not a professor. Anyways, Bellona is that raging libtard of a freaking character. We all know it. This chick would never fight in a war. Her freaking jawline is not made for wars. She's gonna get freaking smashed in by every freaking dude she fights every day of the week. And by the way, the freaking goddess of war, Bellona, no one knows who the frick this chick is. For some reason, you didn't choose to make Ares the face of the game, Zeus the face of the game. You didn't choose Ares looks cooler than Bellona. You believe, you know, Smite, battleground of the gods. You believe it when you look at Ares. But okay, we're gonna have it be Bellona because we have to service ourselves to feminists who make up like 0.01 of the freaking, less than that, of the freaking gaming population in general, but also specifically for Smite. Instead of making a freaking sexy female like Neith the face of your game, or Aphrodite, I don't know what the frick they're doing, but they're freaking smoking crack or some kind of weird cocaine laced with all kinds of freaking blockers. Anyways, so we loaded up Smite 2 and we played Smite 2 a good bit. I noticed some very discernible changes. And of course, recently I came back. I made some videos. I was about to say this earlier. I made some videos talking about also why I hate Smite, because I do hate Smite. I love the game itself, but the freaking matchmaker, and oh my, again, just go see that video. And I'll just tell you here, though, the freaking matchmaker and the freaking players, they're horrible. That's the #1 reason you're going to ever have to hate Smite. It's a fun game, well, and then there's issues with how imbalanced a lot of characters are, right? You have certain characters that if you throw out 3 basic attacks, you can nearly kill an enemy, right? Like your 1 or 2 basic attacks left to hit to get a kill. Okay, so 5 overall. But then there's other characters, it takes like 10, 11, 12 basic attacks to get a freaking kill, and you're like, I can't freaking fight anybody, I can't win. What the frick is going on here? And you just lose match after match after match playing these other characters because they're not as effective as the other characters that are, for some reason, are just massively overtuned. So this is a huge issue with Smite, is that a bunch of people act like it's a game of skill. No, it's a game of bigger numbers, okay? If my numbers hit harder than your numbers, I'm just going to win every time. And that's the simple fact of playing a game like Smite, is that it's not about who's better. It's not about who, I mean, some players are better mechanically, but ultimately your builds are really going to look the same across a lot of players. And at the end of the day, it really just comes down to which characters are most broken. So anyways, that's not even the entirety of it all. There's so many reasons I legitimately hate Smite 1. But getting into Smite 2, I can tell that there's quite a huge number of differences between Smite 2 and Smite 1. One thing I noticed right away during Alpha Weekend 2, and by the way, a new update has come out for Smite 1 that reverted the 9.5 update and its changes to health and damage, as well as protections. So now you can glass cannon players and characters a lot easier right now in Smite 1 than before the update. And pretty much, as far as I remember the stats, they took out 1/3 of every character, their health and their protections. And I'm pretty sure it's to help players who are picking up Smite 1 and they're about to bridge into Smite 2, right? Smite 2 is about to release, I think, in the closed beta, correct? If you're a founder, if you're purchasing the Founders Edition. And in Smite 2, noticeably, gods are so much easier to kill, bro. It is insane. Like, getting kills is a lot easier, but also, this is something that's a huge problem with Smite 1, is that you'll damage enemy players and you're like, where's the damage coming from? It's hard to read damage, and then you'll look at yourself getting damaged and you'll be like, am I getting damaged and how much? It's hard to really track the numbers. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you're looking at it. Something interesting that happens though, that they've changed with Smite 2, you can really get a good sense of all the damage numbers. They did change it visually, but also just when you're playing the game, you get a good sense of, okay, I'm getting damaged, okay, I'm about to lose, I'm about to die, okay, I'm healthy enough to jump into a fight. For some reason, you get a really good wherewithal of where your health is in Smite 2. So that's something I really like, is that also when characters damage you with their abilities, it doesn't feel overly tuned or crazy, like out of this world. You'll see yourself getting damaged and you'll be like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, that ability did that much damage. Okay, that basic attack did that much damage. That totally makes sense. I get why I died. Everything makes sense when you play Smite 2. When you play Smite 1, you'll get hit by things and you'll be like, how did I die? How am I losing health right now? This makes no sense. Whatever it comes down to in Smite 1, a lot of damage, quite honestly, it feels like invisible or covert damage. It's really strange. Does it annoy the living daylights out of me? Absolutely. So in Smite 1, it's really difficult to get a sense of like, when am I going to die? When am I going to be damaged? And how much is that going to really do? Because again, certain abilities are so overtuned. You're like, okay, I'm going to get hit by Shocks 1 and I expect this amount of damage. And then suddenly you're getting nuked and you're like, what? And there's so many weird stats that just don't make any sense. I mean, healing numbers don't make sense. You feel like you're healing a lot, but then you're dying, or you feel like you're out trading an enemy god, and then for some reason you're getting nuked again. Everything in Smite 2 is crystal clear. It just makes sense. And on top of that, the animations are so smooth in Smite 2. Here's an issue with Smite 1. I don't know what it is, but the game is so clunky. You will utilize certain abilities on certain characters, and you will literally skip frames. Like Fenrir, his freaking leap, his one, literally, for real, brother, for real, bro. When you use in Smite 1 Fenrir's leap, the game will typically skip like one frame or whatever, whatever length the frame is, anyways, but it'll skip multiple frames to the point that you only see the last 2/3, if not half, of Fenrir's leap. You have no idea because the freaking camera and the frames are skipping for some reason. I don't know why. And this happens with many abilities. You can't see the beginning of the ability. It's not smooth. It's not fluid. So you'll land abilities and you'll be like, it looked like I missed that, but okay. And then you'll swear you threw out an ability and you're like, this should land. And then it doesn't land, you miss. And you're like, how did that miss? I literally saw the projectile hit the character, or I saw my leap land on that character and it just didn't land. What is going on here? Well, whatever it comes down to, and there's tons of abilities like Bellona's 2, her whirlwind sledgehammer attack. That freaking ability will miss so often with the final hit in Smite 1. And you'll be like, I swear that should have landed, bro. But for some reason, bro, in Smite 2, Bellona's 2, and many other characters, by the way. It's not just these two characters. But Fenrir's leap, so many abilities feel so smooth. And you know, you see the entire animation play out. When I leap with Fenrir, I see the beginning, the middle, and the end of that animation. It is clear, it's smooth. I know where I am and I know where I'm going. I don't get this sense of discombobulation that I have to get my freaking brain used to playing the game. No, everything's being shown on screen in real time. That is great. And another thing is when you miss abilities in Smite 2, you know when to blame yourself because you know, okay, I missed that ability, and you know when the game is being glitchy and you missed the ability because the game's being weird. By the way, the game's right now, it's in alpha, so sometimes I was experiencing certain abilities they were just missing simply because of like a weird glitch or whatever. In Smite 1, you will miss abilities and you will be like, how did that miss? Time and time and time again. You will be missing freaking basic attacks and you'll be like, how is this missing? There's so many clunky angles. And bro, when I went back to Smite 1 after playing Smite 2, it just dawned on me. I was like, whoa, there is actually a difference between Smite 1 and Smite 2. I see it, it's clear as day. And yeah, bro, like you will miss, and that's what makes Smite 1, by the way, a much more frustrating game. You will miss so many abilities and you will die and you will get far behind in your freaking lobby, whatever match you're playing. You'll be, level 7 up against a freaking level 14 because you had stupid abilities miss when they shouldn't have missed because Smite 1 is clunkier. Smite 2, that problem does not exist. And that's another thing. Noticeably, you can get under level in Smite 2 and still have a fighting chance. Obviously, the cards are stacked against you, but you still have a chance to get a kill. I noticed that. I don't know how true this is, the higher skill tiers you go up in, but for the most part, I was noticing despite player skill level, it was clear that levels did not punish you as harshly as in Smite 1. Something I do have to say, you know, Smite 1 has a lot of unique items, I would argue. And sadly, a lot of these items, though, they're not viable. And they're not really worth playing with at all. They don't really give you a good experience. You're gonna get dunked on by everybody else if you build a bunch of items that nobody else builds. So there's a bunch of meaningless items in Smite 1 that, you know, they're like flavor of the month. You might play it to just experience this random item that nobody uses, but you're gonna lose the match if everyone else on the enemy team, which they are doing this by the way, if they're building legitimate items, you're going to just lose. So it's a little bit like fake choice in Smite 1. Smite 2 has a lot of choices. A lot of them seem to be pretty viable. So far to me, a lot of them were. And for the most part, there was somewhat variability, somewhat items that you can experiment with. Something I really love is that now magical characters can utilize critical strike chance. That is great. Something I don't like though is that I notice Guardians now, instead of having strictly magical damage, they have a mixture now of physical and magical damage. So if you try to build damage on a Guardian, you're SOL, bro, because only half of your kit is actually going to do damage. That's a huge problem. I don't like it. It punishes you if you want to go damage Ymir, if you want to go damage Athena. Now, the thing is that you can now go crit because the game allows you to build physical on these characters. So, alright, but again, there's that trade-off that some of your abilities, they don't do any damage because you're building physical. And vice versa if you build magical. Anyways, are the items as interesting though as in Smite 1? Do I feel like I can really experimentate with the builds in Smite 2 as I can in Smite 1? Because in Smite 1, I typically like to make my own builds, because typically the builds that the game or other people, including pros, that they tell you the build are not the best builds to use. It consistently, every single patch, you have to figure out for yourself, honestly, the best builds. Because there are certain builds that you can get freaking 20 kills average every lobby in like a game like, for instance, Smite 1, if you build it out yourself. But if you listen to the game, right, because there's an auto build in the game for Smite 1 and Smite 2, if you listen to the auto build or you listen to pro players, they'll have you play these freaking builds where you can't even go like 5 and 1 in a game, right? Like 5 kills, 1 death. You can't even do that. These are terrible builds. They're not functional. I don't know why anyone would tell you to use these. So anyways, there's a lot of experimentation that you can go through though in Smite 1, and that allows you to make some decent builds. Now again, there's not a crazy ton of build diversity, especially within what is viable, right? If I'm gonna select a certain build, which build is going to screw me over and which one's going to perform as intended or as desired. So effectively, you only have like 1 or 2 builds you can really go with most characters. It's really frustrating. And in Smite 2, it seems like to me, you can, for one, you can have some build diversity. I do like that. Some of the items have some interesting status effects. By the way, they removed actives out of the game. They placed actives within the items. So you can buy 6 items with active abilities in them, and you can have Blink in a chest plate. You can have, I think, a healing mushroom in another item. You've got all these actives that you can use, and they're pretty interesting, I would argue. I think it's interesting. It simplifies the game because there's way too many items to pick up in Smite 1. I think for a lot of players, that's a little bit overwhelming. For me, it's not because, bro, I'm the best at freaking Smite. What can I say? But anyways, for most players, I can totally see that it's just overwhelming, and I would believe it's overwhelming. So I think some of the design decisions that they're going with, I'm kind of okay with it. I don't know long term how I think about it because it just doesn't feel like I can really do that much with the items. It doesn't seem like to me that there's a lot of build diversity. Now maybe that will change going out of the alpha into the beta into the eventual release of the game, right? Whatever it is though, a lot of the items are basically just physical magical protections, penetration, damage numbers for magical or physical, as well as critical strike chance. That's pretty much it. There's nothing really that special going on. There's some items with passives that you see in Smite 1. So anyways, and those are the items, okay? I like the items. There's a lot of symmetry behind a lot of the items from Smite 1 to 2. So that's not terrible because I think Smite 1 has good items, you know? I think some of them could be a little bit more creative, and I would be interested in seeing more creative items that can possibly really transform some elements of the gameplay. That would be cool, but like, I don't know, like give me a freaking active ability that makes Neith lose all of her clothing, okay? Like something like that, you know? Anyways, by the way, the graphics look great. It's Unreal Engine 5. The lighting's great. The character models look great. I have to criticize this though. Noticeably, they did things to Neith's outfit, for one, to cover up her freaking side cleavage with her freaking outfits. I hate that, bro. And also noticeably, her boobs. Okay, imagine a slider. In Smite 1, Neith's boobs are like at a 120. And what did they do in Smite 2? It is very noticeable. They reduced them minimally, okay? Which is too much. They should have inflated them, if anything, for Smite 2. Hey, freaking gamers, we got a freaking graphics overhaul, and also somehow Neith, her freaking boobs got larger. Don't know how it happened, bro, but here it is. No. Instead of doing that, they cock the living daylights out of me. And they literally bring Neith's boobs from the 120 on the slider, and they bring it down to like a 110 or 105, okay? And yes, Neith's boobs are over 100, yes. For some reason though, it is so noticeable that they reduced her boob size just slightly. And another thing they did is that they updated her outfit. They updated a couple of looks to the characters. Some of them look really good, like Anubis, blah blah blah. But still with Neith, what the frick were they thinking? They covered her up a little bit, like in her backside. She has cloth now covering her up. In Smite 1, where the cloth is at, for one, it's thinner, and for two, it looks like skin paint, okay? It doesn't look like cloth because it isn't, practically speaking. Anyways, to me, Soul, I think they also reduced her boob size. But when I was cross-referencing, I was like, nah, maybe it's the same. I think it's the same, but like, you know, I might just go the full way and get completely geriatric about this crap though, man. Cause like, love of God, you guys didn't think of like boosting up the freaking boob size on these females? What the frick were you thinking, bro? It is the freaking sequel to your freaking main game. And you're gonna sit there. This game defines high res, by the way. For some reason, you're not just gonna boost the women's boobs. By the way, I have my mother effing eyes set out on Dodgy, Nuwa, and Aphrodite. If there's anything that's going to tell us a change in their design philosophy is whether or not we are going to see that Aphrodite's boobs get smaller, or that Dodgy, her boobs get smaller, or that you have a character like Nuwa, her boobs get smaller or in any way covered. If we see any feasible alterations to many of these female characters, we will discernibly know what they're freaking doing. Anyways, they're freaking woke. These mother effers, if they freaking take these mother effing my freaking breasts, my wife's breasts from me, I will freaking lose my mother effing mind. You have no idea. The 7 moons, the 7 suns, and the 7 rivers, they will all cascade down upon high-res on the day that we can totally and completely confirm that they are absolutely nerfing the freaking breasts on the females. And then I will curse this freaking game. I will have a conversation with God. And I will say, bro, high-res went way too far. It's over. God will look me straight in my freaking face. By the way, God is really bright, so I'm going to be blind after this exchange. It's just the way it goes. Anyways, he will look me right in the eyes where I'm getting blinded, basically bleached. My eyes are getting bleached in real time. And he will tell me, my son, those breasts were taken from you. And now the locusts, and now the plagues of moths, the hordes of disease will scourge the studios of Hi-Res. And I will look at God's face that I can't see anymore, and I will say, thank you, Lord. And I will walk away, fumbling and stumbling my way out in slow motion, like a proper steward of mankind. I reported my transgressors' sins against humanity. I am a messenger of progress for Neith, Aphrodite, and all the other frickin' females' boobs. And God understands this, and therefore he loves me. So anyways, outside of that whole conversation that we're having, by the way, there's one God. There's not all these freaking random polytheistic gods. So yes, this game is absolute blasphemy. Of course, you're just playing characters in a video game, but still, these characters are absolute blasphemy. And Neith will absolutely be one of my freaking 94 wives in my Mormon heaven. You know, metaphorical Mormon heaven, not actually Mormon. But even if I'm not a Mormon, I will still have a Mormon heaven afterlife with Neith. 94 Neith clones will be my wife in heaven. Virgin Neiths. By the way, Neith, what's up, girl? And by the way, let's not forget, I will have 72 Aphrodites and 72 Nuwas. And of course, 184 Dodgies. Yes, my harem will be very numerous, and it does not matter, because I can handle that many women, I swear, especially when they're all cloned. You can basically brainwash one, you can brainwash the rest of them, okay? My Mormon Muslim household will be made complete. Also Jewish, also Catholic, I guess. Anyway, like, I guess it's every brand of Abrahamic, I guess. No, that's not even true. They're not all equally Abrahamic. Anyways, let's move on from this conversation. This is going downhill. Did I enjoy Smite 2? There's a lot of elements I really enjoyed about how they modified the gameplay. I really appreciate the fact that, for one, there's now a reward for clearing the Gold Fury, because every single time that you clear the Gold Fury, you will get a stack to a maximum of 3 for a Gold Fury buff. And each stack of these Gold Fury kills will ultimately grant you certain bonuses and benefits that just helps you in the match. Like, for instance, that you get plus 50 protections when near to a structure, as well as true damage against structures if you get 3 Gold Fury kills. And when, by the way, after those first 3 Gold Fury kills, something really cool happens, which is that every time after that you take out the Gold Fury, it deactivates all of the phoenixes and towers on the enemy team. Now, I noticed for some reason that my teammates were absolute retards, because for some reason they would never take advantage of this moment and focus out the phoenixes, the towers, take them all down. They would never do it, so I don't know what the frick is wrong with people. And I mean, as usual, freaking Smite 2 players, Smite 1 players, Smite players in general have no IQ level. These are EBT gamers, okay, bro? Freaking Section 8 losers. I don't know what the frick is going on, but these people have no IQ level. I don't know what's going on. But anyways, I love that touch to the game. Also, the fire giant buff. Now, your character literally glistens with fire. Like, fire enters their veins. It is so cool. I actually love that effect. Rather than having like a little buff belt on your character after you get the fire giant, now your character visibly changes and they basically become like molten fire lava. It's really cool. I like that. Now, I do have to say, something I didn't completely like about Smite 2 is that it lacks a lot of the things that you have available to do on the map, like in Smite 1. In Smite 1, they've been cultivating that map, the Conquest map, for so long that there's just always something to do on the map. In Smite 2, there's really not that much to do on the map. So, obviously, I think as the longer the game goes, In its developmental cycle, they're clearly going to add more, but I really hope that they add more like mini objectives on the map, because I don't like that we only have the Fire Giant and the Gold Fury. If I'm being completely honest, I want to have a third objective. And I do not mean the Pyromancer, I mean something else that's cool. That would be really nice to have. And I know that would be a lot different from a game like League of Legends, which clearly with Smite 2, by the way, they added shrubbery. They added bushes and shrubs to sift yourself into and go invisible. So they're definitely chasing after the design decisions and philosophies of League of Legends. They're trying to get more in lieu of that. And I don't completely hate that. I understand it. It's not really that bad. It's for the most part, it's pretty good, okay? But outside of that, man, what do I think of the characters? How do the characters feel? I think they feel great, for one. Some of them got a lot of updates and changes to their abilities, to their ultimates, just a lot of quality of life, or catching them up with other characters, because some of these characters, they kind of waned off in Smite 1, like Anubis, for instance. They changed how some of the damage plays out with certain abilities as well. They made, yet again, some changes to Zeus, and I do like the changes actually to Zeus. Now his 3, right, you collect all these charges when you basic attack an enemy god, and when you utilize your 3, you're detonating those charges on that god. Well, now it stuns the god that you're detonating those charges on. That's huge for freaking Zeus. And honestly, I like a lot of the changes they made with him, and he is a powerhouse, bro. He does a lot of damage. And of course, right, in Smite 2, a lot of players and characters are very squishy, but like, rightfully so. All of the damage numbers make sense. Even for tankier characters, it makes sense. Again, like, there's something about this game where when I deal damage, or I am dealt damage to, it just makes sense. It's like, I get it. I get why that does that much damage. You know, it's intuitive. It's intuitive damage numbers. I don't know what it is that they did with this game different from Smite 1, because Smite 1 makes no sense with the damage. But Smite 2, seriously, bro, I love how damage works in this game. Anyways, though, yeah, they made some changes to certain passives on certain characters. Like for instance, I believe it's a change on Anubis that his passive now, when he lands attacks with his abilities, I think he gets a little bit of power, a little bit of lifesteal, and a little bit of protections. And they also made some changes to Neith, and I think I like those changes a lot more. Instead of her using her backflip to set down a root, a weave root that is natural to her kit in Smite 1, now, by using her 2, her weave pool, you will be placing down a root, which is really cool because now there's a lot more synergy between your second ability and your first ability, the arrow. So now you can get a lot of root explosions due to utilizing your 2 with your 1. That's a lot better. And now your 3 will also explode those weave roots. So anyways, man, that's pretty much all my thoughts. And again, a lot of characters also, their animations are so much smoother. Landing abilities with characters like Fenrir, like even Hades. It's really cool. Oh, and by the way, they made a change with Hades, with his ultimate, where you can utilize one ability only once. So you can only use, again, one ability and only once during his ultimate. So you can actually utilize his teleport now during the ultimate, which I think gives a micro extension to his ultimate, but that's cool. So right, if you utilize your ultimate as Hades and you miss, you can now utilize your teleport or your burrow ability, however you want to call it, and it will extend the ultimate. And again, you're changing locations with the ultimate. It's really cool, bro. And then also during your ultimate, right, you're pulling in, you're sucking in with basically as a vortex towards Hades. You're pulling in all these enemy gods, right? Well, now he can use his 3, which clearly that causes a lot of area damage, and it's really cool that they made these slight changes. And also, of course, he can use his Blight attack, the silencing cone, during his ultimate. I've seen some people do it. I can sort of get why sometimes you would do that, but it doesn't really seem that necessary. Anyways, they're making some interesting changes to characters in Smite 2, and for the most part so far, I like the changes, and I think they're pretty sensible. I think they do improve the characters overall. They made no changes to Loki though, which was weird. I don't know why they didn't change Loki, because I think there's some elements of Loki that needs an update for sure, but yeah, for some reason they didn't do that. Honestly, when it comes down to Loki, I would just say he needs to feel a little bit more fluid, just a tad bit. But that pretty much covers everything, man. Those are about all of my thoughts on Smite 2, the Smite 2 Alpha Weekend 2. I think that the game is relatively fun. It makes absolute changes to the gameplay that is huge. Everything is so much more fluid and smooth. Bro, it just feels so crisp to play Smite 2 compared to Smite 1. And outside of that, man, I do have to criticize this huge component though of Smite 2. The matchmaker is just as mother effing bad as Smite 1. I mean, seriously, in Smite 1, you will end up on teams with people you have no business being on these people's teams. You have no clue how many times I've ended up in freaking MMR, Elo hell in Smite 1. Like, I should be typically at either a high plat or diamond level of gameplay. I've nearly gotten to masters in Smite, but bro, I just can't freaking do it. The matchmaker's so bad in Smite, time and time and time again. If you leave it up to the matchmaker, you will never make it to even platinum. The amount of times I've gotten stuck in silver and gold, I am leading lobbies after lobbies after lobbies, but for some reason the matchmaker just decides, listen, we're going to intentionally place 2 players on your 5-player team who can barely play the game, and they just basically feed their heads off all game. They're not even good players. They don't even listen to their team. They don't have any freaking game sense to save their life. They'll blame other people when they're at fault for what they're doing. Time and time again in Smite 1, I will be held back in the freaking MMR system simply because of bad teammates. So the amount of times that I should be playing at like a platinum level, a diamond level, it just never happens unless you play with another player that is in some way proximal to your skill level. And only then have I ever personally been able to get out of my Elo hell and make it into freaking platinum 1, diamond 5, 3, 2, whatever. And that's the thing with this game too, bro. I mean, you will have good matches, and this is the thing about Smite matchmakers, it's socialist. If you have too many good matches, they will go out of their way to absolutely punish you. And you will be thrown on a team of people who are freaking retarded, bro. Brain dead loser morons. They have no idea what the frick they're doing. They're feeding their heads off. And you're like, what the frick? And like, you'll have a match, for instance, where you're leading the lobby. And I had this happen in Smite 2. Literally, I'm going like 16-1, I believe, with Fenrir. And my teammates, they're never helping me out. They don't listen to me when I tell them attack the Gold Fury. They don't listen to me when I say attack Fire Giant. They don't help me out when I'm getting freaking bodied by the entire enemy team because I'm leading the freaking lobby. And because I'm leading the lobby, now I'm getting focused out. So I'll have freaking 4 players stacking on top of me, taking me out the freaking game. And meanwhile, my freaking teammates, they're smoking freaking daisies out in some other freaking lane, completely ignoring the fact that I'm getting freaking bodied. For some reason, they just can't bother to back up their leading player in the freaking lobby, man. This happens time and time again in Smite 1 and Smite 2. For some reason, the matchmaker finds absolute moron retards to put onto your team who will never back you up, and they won't even listen to you to clear out the freaking objectives, and meanwhile, the enemy team, they'll work together. They'll have teammates that can actually have synergy, but meanwhile, for me, can't get that for some reason. And this is what happens: the better a player you become, the worse players you will get moving forward for either the next match, the next 2 or 3 matches, until you lose enough matches that then the matchmaker starts to feel sorry for you, and then he'll put on your team the players who actually know how to play the game. It's annoying. I hate it. Anyways, man, those are my thoughts on freaking Smite 2 after the second alpha weekend. So far pretty good, but I do hope they make a good number of further improvements. And I really do hope that they add a lot more personality to the map, to the conquest map that we're currently playing on.